Buddhism in Tibet, Exorcising Demons with the Buddhist Sutra by Aditi Patel and Hussein Syed. Here is a brief history of sutras. The word sutra literally translates to thread or discourse, and it is a type of literature that is essential to Buddhism. It holds practices to several aspects of the Buddhist religion. Over time, these originally oral traditions were written down to pass on religious rituals and practices. In Buddhism, these sutras preserve the teachings of the Buddha for generations to come. Around the 1st century BCE, the first Buddhist sutra was written down in a language called Pali, which is closely related to Sanskrit. The vague and unique interpretation of these sutras caused a gradual divide within the Buddhist religion as new schools appeared. One such school, the Mahayana school, began producing new texts on various topics that were essential to the Mahayana ideal of Buddhism. These texts would fall into a section of early Mahayana literature known as Prajnaparamita, or the perfection of wisdom. The Astashrika Prajnaparamita Sutra was a discourse of 8,000 verses, which would later be expanded into versions with more verses. These verses would then be shortened into versions known as the Diamond Sutra and the Heart Sutra. So according to the book, the Heart Sutra is one of the most widely known Buddhist texts, and the readings of the sutra are chanted on a daily basis throughout Tibet and East Asia in temples and monasteries. The uses of the Heart Sutra are not limited to chanting, however. In Tibet, the sutra is an essential rite in turning away demons, also known as exorcism. So to the right, there's an image of the Heart Sutra. The text contains of a ritual that cures a range of calamities and misfortunes, including those of material wealth, epidemics, demonic possession, and other misfortunes. The text assumes that the force of malevolence that has found its way into the human realm must be sent back to its proper realm. To the right is an image of the divine demon Mara. The first half of the text is dedicated to a history of lineage, which explains the method of practice, and a history of belief that recounts two stories, one about the defeat of an evil magician, and another about the exorcism of a spirit of an evil king. The remaining text provides directions to this rite of exorcism. To the right is an image of a Tibetan mountain monastery.
The person performing the ritual will first place an image of the Buddha in the center of a white cloth and arrange his offerings in front of it. To the east, he places several images of dough stamped with the impression of the divine demon Mara in the form of a white human on a white horse with flowers in his right hand. These flowers are used for Mara to shoot at his victims. There are flowers of desire, and a noose in his left hand. Behind the images of Mara will be placed a line of 7 dogs made of dough, 7 pieces of meat, and 7 buttons of dough. Now, to the south, there will be placed 7 images of the demons of afflictions. The demons of afflictions, in the form of a yellow human on a yellow horse. In his right hand is a sword, in his left hand a noose. In the west, the person places 7 images of the demon of aggregates, in the form of a red human on a red horse. In his right hand, he holds a spear, in the left hand a noose. In the north, the person places 7 images of the demon who is the Lord of Death, in the form of a black human on a black horse. In his right hand is a club, in his left a noose. Each demon will have 5 rows of these animals and other sacrifices. Please forgive any mispronunciations I will be doing during this presentation or during this specific part of the presentation. So The next step will be the individual offering bowls that will be made for the 4 demons and for the Buddha to eat. Then the person performing the ritual uses the dough that has been spit and breathed on by the person who is doing the ritual to create a statue of them. That statue is clothed in a garment made of that person's clothes and placed in front of the Buddha image with its back facing the person performing the ritual. Then the person visualizes himself as the Buddha, seated in the middle of 4 demons. The thing about this position is that it's both dangerous and powerful, and this is where the exorcism is executed. And then, so basically, the person also visualizes Avalokiteshvara and 8 bodhisattvas next to him. And the main goal of this is that he first acts like the host for the demons, and then he moves in to become the conqueror of them later on. Okay, now the mediator, forgive my pronunciation, imagines the god Paramita, and specifically imagines this goddess seated on a moon disk surrounded by Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. And the person performing the ritual will recite the Heart Sutra while giving the common offerings of flowers, incense, lamps, perfumes, etc. Then the person uses the Heart Sutra to invite the demons to absorb into their molded images, the dough doubles, and the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas to absorb into their visualized doubles. The reason the demons are invited to those dough pieces is that these demons are believed to be invisible. Like, they're moving through the human domain undetected. Like, they're moving through our world. But to help the demons to be put at peace and turned away, they must be brought to a physical presence through some medium. And in this case, that medium is the dough double. Then the person repeats the Heart Sutra 9 times, claps, and turns one of those 7 rows of demons, buttons, draught animals, dogs, tubes of dough, and pieces of meat, so they face outward. And does this for all rows in all directions. After this process, this is where the person can say different things with the purpose of the ritual. For example, if it is to destroy an enemy, they can say, by the power of the words of truth, of the noble 3 jewels, may our enemy sow and today be summoned, liberated, i.e. killed, and his flesh and blood eaten by the gods and demons of this world. May his consciousness be led into the Dharma Dhatu. That's something they would want to say after this process if, again, they wanted to destroy an enemy. So this ritual can be used to ask for things in a way. Then after that, the offerings of food and torma are made to the demons with requests to refrain from harm. So the final step is to dispatch the demons. The demons are cajoled and threatened. And they're invited to return, the gifts that we gave them, to take those gifts and return with those gifts to their palaces in their realm. And then the patron, so now we run into one major issue. So you have these demons, and they can easily take over the person. They could easily put the person underneath their power. So the patron has to figure out a way out of this. Or that was one of the problems in this ritual. So the patron, in order to save himself, gives up something of himself by pressing precious substances into his sculpture that we made earlier. The demons will get confused and think that sculpture is worth more than the patron. They agree to release the patron from their power in exchange to take over the sculpture. But by doing this, the demons enter a contract. If they come back and harm the person performing the ritual, the Buddha will visit them with a punishment. Then the patron takes all the images and offerings and places them facing away from where the ritual was performed. The placement depends on the purpose of the ritual. For example, if it was for the welfare of a sick person, it will be placed in a cemetery, or they will be placed in a cemetery.
The ultimate goal of the ritual is for the banner of undiminished good fortune to be planted. To the right, you can see an image of a Tibetan Buddhist kapala. The kapala is often used as a bowl to hold offerings during Tibetan Buddhist tantric rituals. The roots of this ritual come from pre-Buddhist Tibetan religion. This suggests the assimilation of Buddhist religion into Tibet through familiar practices. However, this ritual also shares similarities with the traditional Buddhist sadhana. A Buddhist sadhana is a spiritual ritual used to evoke divinity and self-realization.